Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the November 3rd, 2017 edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, David Leary. I'm the Intuit Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today, we have a special guest leading up to the Small Biz Hack, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Alex Lakatos, he's a partner of the hackathon, is from Nexmo. He's the JavaScript developer advocate. You can follow him at Lakatos88 on Twitter. And before we jump in and I introduce you to Alex, I'm going to just go through a couple of housekeeping slides. And also, as a reminder, if you have questions along the way, please use the Q&A panel. For everything else, like, hey, I can't hear audio, etc., please go ahead and use the chat panel. And if my slide will go next, here we go. There we go. So just a reminder, QuickBooks Connect is a quick 10 days away. Maybe less, no, 15th, today's the 3rd, 12 days away. Yeah, it's 12 days away. Feels like it's sooner than that because I'll be traveling next week for the hackathon, which we'll get into in a moment. But those of you who have not registered as of yet, please definitely get registered for QuickBooks Connect. We're going to have 3 days of events there starting on November 15th. The first day is going to be the Accountant Day. And during the Accountant Day, we actually do have a little bit of dev content happening, possibly. But if you're a developer and you haven't gotten certified in QuickBooks Online yet, this is a good opportunity for you to go take the QuickBooks training, get your QuickBooks Online certification. It just makes you that much stronger of a developer, makes your support team better, makes your sales teams better. And then on the main day and the final day, we definitely have developer sessions. There's 2 on each day, so a total of 4 sessions to attend. And we're also doing almost total, I want to say 12 hours of developer open office hours. So you can come in, any questions you have for the developer team, we're going to be fully staffed and you can come and get help and questions on anything you guys have going on. So this is coming up about 12 days from now. So please hurry up and try to get registered as fast as possible. QuickBooksConnect.com. And then leading up to that event, we do have the hackathon, which is next Saturday and Sunday. So we're down to 1 week from now. Everybody will be in Mountain View, California. This is going to take place at the Intuit Building 20. It's the brand new building that Intuit has opened. It has a 4-story floating staircase. It has these crazy rooms that just hang out over the edge. It's like a really cool and inspirational site. It's very exciting that we're going to host the hackathon here instead of being in the basement of a hotel or something like that. So it's really, really looking forward to this next week. We're giving out prizes. We have some sponsors that'll be there. One of the sponsors is Nexmo, and Alex will be participating in that. And leading up to the event, we do have more Hangouts coming up. As always, you can just go to developer.intuit.com/hub-events. You can see all the coming up events. Next week, we are going to do 2 back-to-back. We're going to have the Small Biz Hack Partner QuickBooks and the Small Biz Hack Partner Square on next Friday back-to-back. So you definitely want to swing by and connect with those. And then we have the hackathon coming up. But all the events that we'll be attending are always found on this page, and you can RSVP for any of them. So without further ado, I'm going to exit out of my screen sharing here. Got it. And Alex, if you want to unmute yourself. Alex, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on the Hangout this morning. I think are you going to actually be at the hackathon as well, or are you just doing this Hangout?
Yeah, I'm going to be at the hackathon as well.
Awesome. So everybody will get to see you now, recognize you now. If they watch this after the fact, see you on the YouTube, and then they finally get to meet you on next Saturday morning.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I think I'll let you jump in. You could share, tell us a little bit about Nexmo, tell us about the APIs, tell us about the prizes you're giving out. And again, if anybody, while Alex is sharing his screen, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel. If it's just general chat, feel free to use the chat. And there you go,
okay.
Alex.
Thank you. I actually said good morning. It's not morning for me. It's late afternoon. I'm in London. So if I'm a bit, I'm a bit tired, I'm sorry for that. I wanna show you guys how to use Nexmo's APIs. A lot of you people probably heard about Nexmo. I'm just going to reiterate really quickly what we are and what we do. Nexmo's a global cloud communication platform, and we have APIs for sending and receiving an SMS, making a voice call or receiving a voice call. We have APIs for numbers or number querying via Number Insight. So you could basically query a number and get all kinds of information about it. For example, if it's a landline number, if it's a mobile number, if it's a virtual number, if it can be reached now, or if it's roaming and stuff like that. And we have something called Verify, which does 2-factor authentication. For example, it works in it works in an interesting way in the fact that we want to make sure we verify everything for you. Like we want to make sure that the code actually gets to the person you're trying to verify. So we're going to send out an SMS, and if that doesn't work, we're going to fall back on voice. So they're going to get a call with a recording of the number as well. I'm going to show you guys how to send and receive an SMS and make and receive a call. And if we have time after that, and you guys have any questions about other stuff you might want to do with Nexmo, I'm all out for questions. To begin with, you need a couple of things. One of them is a Nexmo account. You can go to dashboard.nexmo.com and create an account. When you sign up, you get €2 credit automatically, so you can try it out, play around with it. It looks like this. I have an API key and secret in there. The only problem is you're gonna see my API secret because it's here. It's hidden up top, but it's hidden here. And the API key at the top. Those are the main credentials you use to interact with the Nexmo API. I'm gonna change the API secret after this, don't worry about it. And there's not a lot of money in the account anyway. Don't stress it. So you're gonna need an account here to be able to play around with it. As you land, you're gonna get on the Getting Started guide. There's a bunch of different things in here to try out the API. For example, the easiest one is the request to send an SMS. So I'm gonna try to send an SMS right now to my number just to see if it works.
Alex, could you possibly do a control zoom or make the font just a little bit bigger?
And
that's better. Thank you.
Okay. So I have my screen in here. I have my screen here, and I just got an SMS from Nexmo. The custom, the part that says from here, for example, I'm using a UK number, and in the UK you have custom text. You can have custom text as a from number, but in most countries around the world you can't have that. This just works in the UK. For the US, for example, you have to have an actual number in there that you own on the Nexmo platform. I went ahead and bought one of those in advance, but if you need to buy a number, you can go in the dashboard. Okay, of course it logged me out. So you can go on the dashboard in numbers, and you can search for a number. I'm gonna try to search for a new one on both SMS and voice. Those are my numbers. So I'm gonna buy a number now, and I want to buy one in the US to use for this. And I want both SMS and voice. I want it to be mobile. I'm gonna buy the last one. As you can see, a number is 67 cents per month, and then sending out an SMS is roughly 1 cent or something like that. It really depends on the country, so you can check out our numbers pricing to see how much it would cost. Okay, so I bought this number, and I'm gonna make a note of it and use it later.
So cool. I can buy a number right from you.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to some other service and get a number and come back here.
No.
Got it. Convenient, convenient.
Really, yeah. Okay, so we sent an SMS using a CRL request, right? Because in the end, we're an API platform. But we have something built on top of that to help out developers. We've got 6 wrapper libraries built on top of the API that we maintain and you can use. We've got one. I'm gonna miss one. I know for sure I'm gonna miss one, but let's see. We've got one for JavaScript, obviously. I'm the JavaScript developer advocate, so everything I do today is gonna be all things JavaScript. Sorry, guys. So JavaScript, Java, Python, PHP, .NET, and Ruby. Okay, so I got all 6 of them. So we have wrapper libraries for that. You can find them on our GitHub account or for each specific platform, we publish them to package managers. For example, the JavaScript one is on NPM. And we also built something called a Nexmo CLI, a command line interface, which basically helps you with your account, with buying numbers, like what I just did. What I just did in there in the dashboard, I could do with the CLI. I'm not going to install the CLI right now. So to install the CLI, you do npm install -g Nexmo CLI. I'm not going to test the gods of Wi-Fi and do this in a live demo though. I have it installed, and you can buy a number from here. For example, if you don't want to go to the dashboard, so the Nexmo numbers buy, and that's the number. That's the number I just bought, which won't work. Let me buy a new number. Okay, so let's try to list the numbers instead. So that's going to show me the numbers I have in my account, for example. You can do all kinds of stuff to buy a number, update your account and stuff like that. Come on, no. This is the documentation for the CLI, github.com/nexmo/nexmo CLI. And you have docs in here about how to use the CLI. You could use it for account, pricing, number. You can actually send an SMS with the CLI. You can manage applications, and we're going to see why applications are important a bit later when we deal with making a call or receiving a call and stuff like that. So you have an account, you have the CLI to help you out. Let's see how you make a phone call. Actually, let's start with sending an SMS. I think that's easier. That's a bit easier. So what I'm doing here, I have some code. I wrote. It's not a lot. I'm just gonna go through the code with you instead of live coding everything from scratch here. So what I'm doing here is I have a bunch of credentials in my config file, and then I require Nexmo. Before I did this, I actually had to do npm install Nexmo to actually install our wrapper JavaScript library. And once I did that, I can reference it from my node code. So I'm requiring Nexmo, and then I'm creating a new Nexmo object. This is basically a Nexmo instance with a bunch of config in there. I'm giving it my API key and secret, and I've set the debug to true, so you get the debug in the command line. And then I'm sending a message, which is Nexmo message and send SMS. I'm using as my to number is my UK number on the phone. I can do a custom from here, but in the US, for example, you have to send it from a number you own, so you'd have to do from number, and then this is the message. At the end of it, you have an optional callback. Right now, I don't have a callback, but I could have a callback at the end of it. Which, for example, this is a simple callback. I'm just going to log. If there's an error, I'm going to log it. Otherwise, I'm going to log the result. And that's it. Now we're going to see what happens when you send an SMS. I'm going to open my terminal here, and I have my phone connected. I have my phone connected to the computer. Let's see. Okay, so you saw the request happening to our API, which is /SMS, and then a bunch of JSON into it. It's basically my from number, my to number, and the text. Yes, and the API key and secret public. That's Cool. You get a bunch of info at the end of it. Like the response you get back is your balance and the message price and stuff like that, the network it got sent out through, message ID, and so on and so forth. And you get the actual SMS on the phone. Okay. What happens when you try to so you sent an SMS with the API. That's cool. That's the first step. What happens when you want to receive an SMS? So receiving an SMS happens a bit differently because, like sending out an SMS, you use the API, you push it through to an actual phone. What happens when a phone tries to talk to you to send an SMS? So we have the concept of webhooks. You're going to require a bit more work in order to receive an SMS. I'm using something called NGRock or NGRock. And that's basically a tunnel that allows my local host to be publicly available on the internet. So I don't have to host my code anywhere. I can run it locally, and I have NGRock to push that, to tunnel that outside. And what I did is I did NGRock HTTP and then 3000, and this pushes out port 3000 to the internet. I have an instance running here, and it gives you a web interface and then forwarding addresses for NGRock, for example. Now, why is this important? In order to receive an SMS, you have to set up a, I think my meeting room just went dark for some reason. It's okay. You don't have to actually see my face for this one.
Yeah, everything else seems to be working fine. So yeah, just maybe motion lights or something.
Probably. Okay, so why is this important? You need to set up a webhook on one of your. Did sharing stop working? Yeah. So you have to set up a webhook on one of your numbers in order to receive the SMS. So whenever that number receives an SMS, it's gonna push it via a webhook. So I've built here an Express server really quickly. It basically requires Express and body parser, and it creates an instance on port 3000. That's why I listened on NGRock on port 3000, and I'm forwarding that. So I'm creating a simple Express server that on post on a route does a bunch of different things. And what does is it basically logs whatever's happening on inbound. It's basically it's checking to see if I got an SMS. It checks to see if there's an MSISDN or a 2 parameter in there, and if that's not in there, it means I didn't get a valid inbound SMS message. If that's there, I'm gonna log yay successful, and I'm gonna log the request I got, which is gonna be the SMS in there somewhere. Now, for this to work, I have to actually start the server first. I'm gonna have to start the server first, and you're gonna see why in a bit. So I'm starting the server at listens on port 3000. Now I have to go in our dashboard and put the webhook, attach the webhook to a number basically. Now, how do you do that? There's two ways of doing it. You can do it per number basis or a per account basis. If you wanna do it on a per number basis, you go to your number in numbers right there in the dashboard, you do edit, and then there's something called the webhook URL attached to an SMS. And I'm just gonna add my NGRock URL, the one I just created. Okay, and now /inbound. And I'll update that. And what that means is whenever I get an SMS on this Nexmo number I bought, it's gonna send an event to the webhook, and I can listen for that and see what's happening. Now, if I wouldn't have started NGRock before and created the Express server, when I tried to do this, it would have said there's no 200 available. We fixed it. Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay. We're gonna listen in on what NGRock's seeing in the web interface. So I'm gonna try to send out an SMS now and see what happens. I have my number saved here. Okay, so when this SMS got sent, it posted on inbound, and then it said, it sent basically a request with details about my SMS. That's the text for the SMS, message ID, and all that stuff. And the console log where I ran the server has that as well in there. So when you receive an SMS, you get basically pinged on the webhook. Now I chose 3000 as a port and stuff like that, but I have post in here instead of get, and you could have both. If you go to, come on. So if you go to the dashboard, in here in settings, you have a method, HTTP method. You have an HTTP method for how things are going to be sent on your webhook. I usually use post. Get seems to be the default method. So if you're creating a new account, just make sure to go in there and set your preferred HTTP method for which to receive an SMS. So we saw how we send and receive an SMS. Let's talk about calls now. So calls, if you want to make a call, using your library, you have to have a bunch of things extra from when you send an SMS. So if you look at sending an SMS, you just need the key and secret. To make a call, you need an application and a private key for the application. Now, in order to use the voice API, you need to create an application. How do you create an application? If you go to the CLI, there's on usage, there's applications, and this is the command to create an app. You basically need an application name, an answer method, and an event method, which is basically 2 URLs you have to implement. It's gonna work with example.com. You just lose a bunch of the data we send towards those. And for example, you won't be able to see call recordings unless you actually own those URLs. I'm gonna just create an application using the NGRock URLs I have right now. So I'm gonna stop the server. Let me just clear that. And now, because I'm lazy and I won't implement 2 express routes for you guys this morning, I'm gonna use the same route for answering error and for inbound as well. And that's basically, and I'm gonna save the key file to private key. And that's it. I created my application. What this does is it gives me an application ID back. and it says it saved the private key file to the folder. Now, when I instantiate my Nexmo object, I'm gonna reference the app ID and the private key in that as well, and then I'm gonna create a call, and I'm giving the call JSON like I'm giving you to call an object, and it's basically saying I want you to call this number, and I want you to call it from this number, and this is the answer URL. Basically, this is what the call is going to do. If we're going to go to that link in there, that's basically a JSON object, which tells the call what to do next. And we call these things an NCCO, a Nexmo call control object. It follows a JSON schema. It has a bunch of different actions and things to it. And what mine does is it talks using a voice called Chipmunk, and there's a text attached to it, and it's going to do text-to-speech for me on the call when I initiate the call. Now, that was it for creating a call. I just needed a couple of extra things in order to instantiate, which is an app ID and a private key. And I'm going to save this and initiate the call. And something's gone wrong. I got a 4-1. Let me see. Okay.
Waiting with bated breath here.
That's okay. I got a 4-1. I'm not using the right API key and secret. Okay. Let me use the new app.
And again, as a reminder, if any of you have any questions along the way, please use the Q&A panel. And I'll relay those back to Alex.
Okay, so now it's going to call me. Okay, so I got the call. I don't know if you guys could hear the chipmunk on the other end.
Just barely.
Barely. It worked. Okay. And this is how you make a call. You're gonna see. I got info about the request. The call, because it uses an application, has to be signed with a JWT. We generate the libraries generate a JWT for you automatically. If you don't use the libraries and you're making your own HTTP request to the API, you have to keep in mind you have to generate the JWT with the application ID and a bunch of different things. There's a bunch of documentation for you guys on developer.nexmo.com. I'm going to show you the site later. So if you need to know more about that, you can visit it there. Let's see what happens when I try to receive a call. What happens when I try to call into a number. So making a call didn't really require me to host anything. I just used the library. I made the call from one end to the other, and it went through. When you receive a call, you need to use webhooks again in order to configure, well, the answering URL and other things like that. We're going to look at receiving a call right here. So what I'm doing is I'm implementing the same Express server again, still on port 3000, so I can use the same NGRock instance. and I'm doing the post I already had in there for SMS, just does a console log of what's happening in it. But now I have a get implemented as well as the post. And what the get does is it creates an NCCO for me, which is basically just a simple action that says talk and thank you for calling Alex, and that's it. And it responds with the NCCO whenever you're trying to get the /inbound. I'm going to start running this in the browser. So I'm going to do node. Okay, and now when I try to call that number,
thank you for calling, Alex.
okay, so when I called, what it did, it went on the answer URL. It got basically it got the NCCO from my server, which told him to talk, say something, and then hang up. And then I get a bunch of the events that are happening. So I get the ring event, I have the call started event, I had the fact that I answered, and at the end of it, I get the status of the call, which is basically my duration, the prices, like the cost of it, and all that at the end. Now I could do a bunch of different other things with the NCCO. For example, if I wanted to, let's see, make a call and record it, for example, right? So the only thing, like if I wanted to record the call on top of everything I did, is I just changed this answer URL, which points to a NCCO. And let's take a look at how that looks like. And this is basically when the call starts, it says action record and then talk. And just it says record this message with the different voice, record this message. And at the end of it, you're going to see how you can download it. Let's try to do that to see how the response looks at the end. Wait a sec. So my phone's dialing, but this isn't updating. Does that? Let me just reset QuickTime really quick.
No problem.
Okay.
I mean, a hack in its truest form, right? But it's not going to go well. There's always other stuff to fix.
Yeah. So I get the phone call. Let's just close it. It's not really important. But at the end of it, at the end of it, I should have gotten a link to my, yeah. So I got a link to my recording URL right here, and I can access my file using the API, and I can see what the recording was about and what happened there. And the only thing I needed to change in order to record the call was add another action, add another action and the Nexmo call control object, and then use the talk action. I think recording happens only when the action gets used. So it, like if you want to record the call, it might as well be at the beginning of it. Now, if you want to find out more about NCCO and voice and stuff like that, got the developer portal. which is developer.nexmo.com. And we've got a bunch of different things that people find useful when they develop, like, for example, hackathons, right? A bunch of different things are here just to help you get set up as fast as possible. For example, for SMS, we have building blocks. It's just basically copy-pastable pieces of code that you can use to send a text message or receive an SMS or stuff like that. On top of that, we've got like API references if you want to use the API yourself with your own HTTP request implementation and stuff like that. For voice, for example, we've got guides on top of building blocks. Like, building blocks are small pieces of how do you make a call, how do you send an SMS, stuff like that. For guides are things that are a bit more complicated, like, for example, how do you connect two users in a call, which basically it looks like this. You have an action in the NTCO that says connect, and then you connect to the second phone call. We've got a lot more on NCCOs, which are basically Nexmo call control objects. And you've got all the available things in here, which is really helpful. For example, for voice, you can use text-to-speech, you can connect to people, or you can stream, for example, an MP3 file via a stream URL, and you can do that. One of the common use cases I see are basically private calling. So that requires connecting to people, which is basically you call into an Nexmo number, and the Nexmo number redirects to a second person, so you can call them without actually having to know the number. Or it's mostly used for securing a guest off-platform transactions. For example, when you call an Uber driver in some parts of the world, the Nexmo API is used, and it's like the same thing is done for SMS, for example, if you want to contact your Airbnb host and stuff like that. I think I'm done with the demo part. So if you guys have questions, now would be a good time.
Yeah, let me open the floor up here. John, Lorenzo, any of you guys that are sitting there watching, you guys have any questions, please raise your hand or put it in the Q&A panel, and I can either promote you to the panelist to have a chat with Alex, or I can just relay your question along the way. So some people are bringing some questions. Alex, I know that beginning of the year, we actually had you guys on before, Nexmo. I think it was right after Vonage acquired you. And you guys were at the UK hackathon for the Small Business Hack when we did that in the UK. Have you guys added any new functionality or opened up anything of Vonage's treasure trove and moved that forward as from an API perspective? Is there any new offerings you guys have?
I have no idea what happened. So the other hackathon was in March, right?
Yeah.
I think I joined a bit after that. So I'm not really sure about that.
Anything new? Okay.
It's still, like, we're still trying to. I think for now we're trying to combine everything together. I don't think everything is released yet, but I may be wrong about that. Got it.
Perfect. Yeah, nobody's, somebody actually put a question that says, no questions, thanks. so it looks like you've done a great job explaining. So I know you said you guys are going to give out some prizes as well, right? Did you want to talk about some of that?
Okay, so ready, drum roll, please. We're giving out BB9Es at the hackathon. It's Sphero BB9Es. You can actually program them, play around with them, and stuff like that.
Exciting. Got it. And the let's see.
I'm gonna do some more shameless promotion. If there's no questions, like one of my my favorite use cases for voices, for example, you can connect it. You can connect the phone call to a WebSocket. So you have access to that stream via the WebSocket. So you can make a call from the browser instead of having to use an actual phone. And there's we have a bunch of tutorials in here. And somewhere in here, there's a tutorial about that, which you can't find right now. One of my favorite use case is you can connect your voice, like your phone call, to IBM via WebSocket, and then to IBM Watson, for example. And you can do sentiment analysis in real time of the call, figure out if the person at the other end of the line is happy or sad, or if he's getting angry as the call progresses and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
We have, so Sam, I think you had Sam on for the last Hangout in February or something.
Yeah, Sam actually attended the hackathon, and on his own, he built a hack of his own. Was at the hackathon using other partners' tech. It was kind of cool, like true spirit of a hackathon. It was great.
Yeah. I've been to Sam with Sam to a hackathon recently, and he couldn't leave the hackathon without actually building something.
Yeah. It's awesome.
He did another thing which is cool, which is called the Lex connector, and that allows you to connect a call with the Lex connector to Amazon Alexa, and you can use it with Alexa.
So that's kind of my thought. I just one thoughts that went through my head. I know Google Assistant's coming on, and like obviously it'd be nice to just yell out to Alexa or Google Home, hey, call so-and-so, and it just dials your phone for you and then switches you over. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's getting possible. It looks like a question did come through on the chat. Is there SSML support for talking through Nexmo?
I'm afraid I have no idea what SSML is.
Hey, Yaroslav, I'm going to promote you to a panelist temporarily. Give us about 3 seconds here. Yaroslav, I've unmuted you if you want to ask Alex what your question.
Hi guys. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if it's the speech synthesis markup language, actually the support when you provide like the what to talk through the API. You make in a call and you provide the phrase to talk. Can you use like this the markup language to produce kind of like the breaks and some tone, or increase or decrease the volume of the voice, or the voice is standard by itself?
So we've got a bunch of different voice options in here. So that's basically what the options are available for now, and you don't have a lot more than that. So okay. I don't think you can increase tempo and stuff like that. You can just use different personas we have in there, and it's available for different languages as well. So you could use for example Swedish or whatever. Russian.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions at all? Yaroslav, are you coming to the hackathon next week? You are? Awesome. Yep. Awesome. Cool. Anything, any of the APIs or anything you're excited to try to build for small businesses?
Not yet particularly.
Nothing just yet? Okay. Still kind of kicking around ideas? No, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good. There's definitely a lot of options. I
think.
But
myself, I use like Intuit QuickBooks, and I mean, I was excited when I saw the hackathon events made by QuickBook, made by Intuit. So I will definitely have some ideas.
No, that's great, and that there's just I think it's wide open, especially with so much of business is still done through text and phone. Like having the Nexmo APIs available really helps automate. You know, think about processes that can be automated for a small business, right? Customers can call and make appointments to meet with you without actually having to talk to you, right? There's so many options available, things to build. One of the interesting things I saw recently being built at the hackathon was like a massive IVR. IVR is an interactive voice response. You know, when you call your service provider or whatever, your phone company, and they say, press 1 now for this, press 2 now for that. Mm-hmm. So one of the people there created a massive IVR that meant he never had to accept phone calls ever again because every option was listed there. I need that. That'd be great. And if I'm being honest, I think I'm gonna like build an IVR and bury my okay, this is really important. Actually, call Alex 3 layers deep in there. Out of 27 different options, one of them is going to be call Alex, and everything else is going to rely on the IVR. Yeah, it might start with question 1: do you know me? No, and then it just kicks off the phone call. Did you? Is this a planned phone call? Are you on my calendar? Is this a meeting? No, it kicks them off the call. Yeah, just send them all the voicemail. That would be ideal. Perfect. I don't have anything else, Alex. I don't know if you have anything in closing. We could actually wrap up early if we need to. Give everybody a couple minutes back, and then we'll see you in about 10 days. Yeah, can't wait for that. If you have any more questions, up until the hackathon, please tweet to me. Tweet to me. I'm at Lakatos88 on Twitter, or if you want to play around with the API and €2 just isn't enough, email us at devrel@nexmo.com and we can give you some extra credit for you to play around with. Or if you have any questions or you want to see something other than what I just showed you now, just email us at devrel@nexmo.com and we're gonna be there to help you. Awesome. And I agree. If somebody's definitely going to build on your API coming in next week, if you set it all up and get everything configured before you show up, it saves you a lot of time and you can hit the ground running from a code perspective. Yeah, well, me and Derek are going to be there as well. Okay. Anyway, to help you guys out. In all fairness, out of the 6 languages I just listed, I'm comfortable with maybe 3 or 4 of them. And then there's 2 of them which, well, I haven't done in a really, really long time. But there's a bunch of documentation online to help you out. Just if you go to Nexmo developer, there's something you don't find in there. We also have this thing that says you can contribute to the documentation in there, and you can actually improve documentation. Everything is open source on GitHub, and we accept contributions. Awesome. Sounds like a plan. I will see you guys in about 10 days, bright and early. Perfect. All right. Have a good one. Bye, guys. Bye-bye. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.